I'm on the line right now with a former TNA global champion, Rob Terry. He is featured in a new bodybuilding documentary. It's called Generation Iron, Natty for Life. It premieres on video on demand July 31st. Rob, how are you doing today?
I am doing great, my friend. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
In talking about the project, it's a bodybuilding documentary. Just from watching the trailer and some of the clips I've seen, it seems like it's very polarizing in that world. And, you know, you have people that say everybody's on steroids, and then you
Sure.
have other guys claiming you're natural, you try to do it the right way. So is that relationship played up at all, or is it really like that at competitions between athletes?
You know, like you said, you have different competitions. You have certain competitions where there wouldn't be necessarily any sort of stipulations or guidelines of what you cannot do. And then obviously you have the natural world of bodybuilding where obviously you can't do any of that. And there is, you know, obviously there's a big difference. And that's basically the two of them are separated in that division as well. One is natural and the other one is not. That's basically the premises of that. But ultimately, you know, we all go through the same thing, you know, training, nutrition, diet, and everything else. It's just one side will be enhanced and then the other one's not. That's basically that.
You're not only in bodybuilding where it seems like it's widely used or a problem, but you also were a professional wrestling where it was
Mm-hmm.
abused, or maybe
Sure.
some guys still do. But you know, being in that environment, how does that affect you not only mentally as a guy that takes pride in being a natural athlete, but how
Yeah.
does it affect you socially?
That's a great question because it really did. You know what I mean? When, you know, obviously, like you said, you know, steroids and everything else, enhancement, were a big deal back in professional wrestling. You know what I mean? Obviously, professional wrestling to an extent is somewhat of a bodybuilding show as well. Obviously, you know, and when I got into the industry, that's when the wellness policy really took effect. Even before I got there, the wellness policy took effect. So, you know, obviously I was a big guy coming into when I got signed to the WWE, and you know, a lot of guys, you know, I'd get on with them, we'd all get along great, but then, you know, you'd always get into the situation where like, hey man, you know, what do you take in? What do you take in? And then obviously, you know, I'm not that guy that's going to shout out and scream, hey, I'm natural, everyone. But if someone's going to come up to me and ask me, I'm going to tell them what I am. And, you know, there were so many situations where guys would come up to me and sort of want to talk that kind of shop. And it was just awkward, you know what I mean? And that was just one of those things as part and parcel of a guy of my size being a lifetime natural bodybuilder. So, yeah, it was tough. I had many circumstances like that, both in my time in WWE and Impact Wrestling. It was just one of those things. But, you know, it's just one of those things that you get through, and you know, you build relationships, people get to know you, and then hopefully they get to understand you as well.
If it's not too vague of a question, can you pinpoint the biggest misconception about the bodybuilding world besides everyone's on steroids? Because that's addressed in the film. Is there another one?
Yeah, you know, I think it's just a very natural, you know, it's very normal for people just to assume, you know what I mean? If they see someone in shape, then they must have got there through an enhanced route. And you know, that obviously there are a lot of athletes that might take that course, but you know, I just want to showcase that I am one of those guys that didn't, you know what I mean? And that's basically my story in this entire film, is showcasing, you know, who I am, what I am, and the choices that I've had to make from day one, and the opportunities that have come from me being a natural athlete. So yeah, it's just one of those things where, you know, it's a great opportunity for me to tell my story, how it really is, because people in the wrestling world, you know, they don't really know what I was before I got into the WWE, because I primarily only got hired because I was a natural athlete. Nobody really knows that. You know, I lost a kidney when I was 8 years old. So getting into the unnatural, enhanced side was never an option for me. So that's why I'm a perfect candidate to represent natural bodybuilding and everything that I've achieved that has been a derivative from that.
One of the other names featured in the documentary is Mike O'Hearn. He's well known in the bodybuilding industry. I can say I've known about him for many years, like since I was a kid, because he was on the show Battle Dome.
Right. Yeah.
He was this. It was almost like where wrestling left off was what Battle Dome wanted to be, where he had the Dom triplets and he was this huge guy. And I was like, I never thought, okay, that guy's on steroids, and he makes it a point to say, I'm doing this the right way too. So do you, like, at competitions, do you socialize more with a guy like that who shares your mindset, or, have you learned anything from him, considering you guys got in at different stages?
When I'm at natural bodybuilding shows, first of all, my goal is to just do the best that I can. It's kind of, you want to there's a lot of things you got to do. You know what I'm saying? When you go to a show, it's a little different than a wrestling show where, you get time to chill out, then you got to, find out what you're doing and everything else. And there's a lot of things you got to do in a wrestling show. In a bodybuilding show, it's a little different, especially the ones that I do. Being fortunate to compete at a top level as a pro in natural bodybuilding. It's a course of like a 3-day event. So there's a lot of media, there's everything else. My goal is to connect with as many of the athletes that I can, for multiple reasons. Just number one, because it's just a really cool thing to do. I enjoy doing it. Just to be inspired myself by other people, and also to inspire other people. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my goal. But I don't really seek to, just hang out with people who would be like that wow factor of, oh my God, there's plenty of people like that at shows. But I mean, generally everyone sort of congregates with each other anyway, you know what I mean? So it's a little different in that aspect. But, I think, we all just get along, pretty well. Everyone kind of socializes and everything else. But I wouldn't gravitate especially to someone as of Mike O'Hearn. I've had I was fortunate enough, Shad Gaspar, a very good friend of mine. And every time that I competed in the organization, I went to Cali, and, I'd always link up with him. He always gave me the time. And we'd train, we'd hang out, and Shad is really good friends with Mike O'Hearn, and it was because of Shad that I got the opportunity, and we trained together. And the guy's a freak, man. The guy is a legit freak. Mike O'Hearn, his strength was off the chart when I trained with him. So he's the real deal. You know what I'm saying? When you see him on the YouTube and everything else doing what he does, the guy is legit. He's got that residual strength, power, everything else.
We've all obviously gone through some changes with the quarantine pandemic, and you, at least on this side of things, you know certain things about preparing for a bodybuilding competition. You have like your specific routine. So how does not having competitions affect your training regimen?
So competitions for me, so it's a small amount of time if you think about it. So for me to decide, hey, today, right, I'm in my off season right now. So when I was with TNA, when I was in WWE, I'm very close to that weight. I'm about 280 pounds right now, which is my general off season weight. But when I decide, hey, I want to do a natural bodybuilding show, then for me as a big guy, you know what I mean, I'm easily going to be the biggest guy at one of those shows, but it's really about the muscle definition. So a fan of wrestling could see me on stage, on the wrestling ring of TNA or WWE, and think, man, this guy's cut, he's all this. But that's not the same condition that you would need at a bodybuilding show, because you're under the lights and all these guys, that their body fat is like crazy low. So my job is really to get my body fat percentage as low as I can, whilst maintaining as much as that muscle tissue, which I'll say is a hard thing to do it's harder as a natural athlete. So that's why dieting is meticulous. But I'll spend about 3 months in a sort of fat loss phase where I'll step down to 30 pounds, even sometimes closer to 35 to 40, which is a big drop. But that's what's needed for me to get that conditioning to really stand out on that stage.
You started with FCW and really made a name for yourself when you joined TNA. You were part of the British Invasion, which, if you think about it, is kind of odd because you're Welsh. And that was just, that was one of those glossed over facts. But that was really a cool stable that developed into the World Elite, and you really saw Nick Aldis breaking out. You had Doug Williams, who's established. Eric Young really got a stage that he didn't have before. And I say this all the time, where World Elite Eric Young and his world title run, those are my two favorite periods, and nothing against anybody that likes the comedy gimmick, but those really show who he is as a performer. And I really thought you guys together had something. It was always only so much that they would give you, and then it was like they'd tease you screwing up the matches, and it was like, was there ever an explanation as to why they really didn't just go all the way with you guys and make you a serious threat?
You and I both know that we'll never really know the answer to that. You know what I mean? It is what it is. You can only do what you're given with at the end of the day and do the best that you can with that. But, I will agree with exactly what you say, other than the fact that I am Welsh and they are British. But again, you know what? I'll let it slide because I had such a great time. And it was a really, really awesome time of my life being part of that stable. And, just getting to know those guys the way that I did was a really, really great time for me.
And during that period, you won the global championship. It went under a few different name changes. It was the Legends title, the TV title, global. I think even for a little bit, it was the King of the Mountain title. Just another thing where they didn't know what to do with it. But you're still the 5th longest champion ever. Despite all of those early problems with what to do with the stable, you still have that title run. So can you talk about that period in your career and just what that meant to, get the ball and run with it?
That, that was another, people ask me all the time, what was a special time of professional wrestling for you during your career? And that would definitely be one. We, at that point we were touring, and I actually won that in very close to my hometown, is in a place called Cardiff, Wales. And, so for me to win that there was a lot of media going on that day. I remember I was extremely stressed. There was a lot of moving parts. I didn't even know I was going to win that title until I did. So it was just a really, really great time for me to have that and represent the company as the global champion. And again, just another deal that I'll never forget. That was pretty awesome for me.
Another thing that happened during that time, and it kind of blew up, I don't know if you would say overblown, but you took a chair shot from Homicide. It was kind of ripped apart. And do you recall the reaction to that? Because social media was
I remember
thing, and it was
at
mostly
the time it was a lot of things about concussions and headshots and all that kind of stuff. And that, that was something that was meant to be a little different, maybe planned out, but it happened the way it did. I guess it made for good TV. But yeah, it was just one of those things at the time where people were very, against that. And I think pretty much after that, there was not many chair shots that happened after that time. So
did you hear anything besides news websites and maybe internally about that after the fact? Because Twitter was just in its infant stages, so it's not like you had that.
Yeah, I didn't, you know what I mean? And no one really said anything backstage. It was what it was. I just remember, like you say, social media was a lot smaller then, but I just remember catching wind of it. There was a lot of that shouldn't be happening. You know what I mean? We should stay away from that because of everything that was going on at the time.
You had a brief reunion with the British Invasion. It went a few weeks before it was dropped, and then you started working with Robbie E, which I'd argue was your breakout performance, because after years of being known for your physique,
Yeah.
You got a chance to do a little improv, some comedy, and Robbie E and Robbie T was very fun. It was not as on the nose as his Jersey Shore character was, but it was still
Right.
that like bro. So
Yeah.
can you talk about getting a chance, like who pitched the idea to you about becoming Robbie T and just getting to be a more comedic character?
Again, I don't know who pitched what. I don't know how it happened. It just happened. I was with the guy, and all I remembered is that I had a Welsh accent before I was with him. And then when I was with him, I started talking and saying bro like 7 times in a sentence because of that guy. But that again, like such a great guy. I really keep in contact with him as much as I can. Obviously he's with the NXT right now, and he came down to my neck of the woods down here, so we got to hang out a little bit and talk and everything. So it was just a really good time for me. Like I said, like you said, it was a little bit more comedy, etc. That, but I absolutely loved it. You know what I mean? We both fed off each other, and we had some great ideas and everything like that. And that was just another thing, that I really feel that might have ended a little bit too soon. I think there could have been a lot more mileage we could have got out of that. We just had a great time. I feel like we had good chemistry together. We were able to work on a lot of things and just bounce off each other. You know what I mean? And we had a great time.
Yeah, I definitely agree that the dynamic, you definitely saw that come across on TV. And
because it was different for me, you know what I mean, to have that, when I knew the type of character he was, and I knew the type of character that I was. So at first, I really couldn't see that working out. And I think when that was first passed on to me, like, hey, this is what we're going to do now with you guys, I was a little bit like, I don't know where I'm going to fit into this. But like you said, the more that as we started going along with it, it was just like a natural evolution of just things we could do and what we wanted to do. We talk about things that we wanted to do going on, and then it just got changed from underneath us pretty much. But was what it was.
Not only speaks to your dynamic, your relationship with each other, but his level of talent, because you're seeing that now on NXT, where he worked with so many different people. He's worked with you. He's worked with Jesse Goddard. Now he's working with Chelsea Green and Aaliyah. And, like, hats off to him to finally getting this chance to show what he can do in a managerial role instead of being.
He is a very he gets it, man. You know what I mean? He gets it, and he's going to do really well. So I always keep an eye out for him. I look forward to watching him. And like you say, he's doing really good things right now. So
after that, you were in the Menagerie, which
was
there a pitch for that? Do you not remember, or just?
So at that time, let's rewind. Okay. So a little bit before that, before any of the Menagerie thing came up, I was in Japan. Okay. And I was spending a lot of time over there. And, I was doing tours and everything else like that. I was having a great time. I was doing really well over there, had a good reception, everything else. So I was just really, really looking forward to coming back, and really just making as big of an impact as I could. And then, we had me, Mike Knox, Rebel, and Steve. We were told, hey, this is the idea we got for you guys. And at first, like I say, you know how it goes. Sometimes they'll give you something, and the best you can do with it is just make it the best you can and just run with it. So I was trying to plot these ideas. I'm a huge nerd. I love like all these horror movies and all this kind of stuff. So I thought, okay, I want to create this character that's like, they said they wanted under a mask. So I went off my back. I wanted to design this mask that was just really, just scary as hell. And I showed them the ideas. And they were like, no, it's too much. You know what I mean? I just wanted to be this destroyer, this killer. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no, we need to change it. So there was a lot of back and forth. They were kind of watering my idea down. And then it came to the costume design and all this. And I was like, okay, it just kept coming back all the time. And I was like, I don't know where this is going. And none of us really did. We didn't know what we were doing. And then eventually, it got to the point where it was almost showtime. And we found out it was going to be more of like a circus act. And it was, again, I was in for it. I wanted to do the best that I could with it. But it was, for me personally, it was such a limited role of where I wanted to go with it. You know what I mean? I felt like I had all this experience prior. I went to Japan. you know, and I was ready at that point. You know, I was ready to go, and then I was under the mask. I was doing the freak, and it was just a very limited situation for me. So, but yeah, you know, great guys to work with, and everyone else, and we did have fun, but there was just a limitation factor of that.
I think that's a perfect way to put it, because I didn't mean to make it sound like it was, you know, a total miss. Like, you have talented performers, and I think it speaks more to mainstream wrestling not being able to figure out what to do with a stable like that, because you had the oddities in WWF, and then you had Kazarni, and then you see what Sin Bodhi is like in Las Vegas, and, you know, his freak show stuff. And, you know, the Menagerie idea started off really cool, and then it was just like, okay, they didn't know how to follow up with it.
Right.
And you see something like Steve was in the stable with Abyss and Rosemary, Decay. And it was like, okay, you went dark for this. Like, whoever's decision it was, like, you should have went with it, because, you know, the way you just explained it, like, you're very limited. You're under a mask. People know, they already know who you are. So it's like the idea was right. It was just the execution and the follow-up that didn't work.
Yeah, you know, and we all, you know, again, you know, we all knew what we were there to do, and just try and make the best of it. We tried to do it, and, you know, there was, at the point, there was just nothing more we could really, it just fizzled out, you know. So that was too bad.
With the quarantine, I've been asking people for match recommendations, and everybody was worried about not having content. Obviously, companies are still starting to run right now, but are there any matches that you can pick from your career, whether it's Impact or overseas, that, you know, you'd really like people to go back and watch, that highlight you as a performer, or maybe ones that you've watched for inspiration yourself?
Man, that's a huge question, dude. That's because I don't really want to say, hey, go check one of my matches out against this guy, but, you know, yeah, that's, you know, like, as a big guy performer, you know, there were a lot of guys, you know, that I used to watch, and, you know, a lot of Brock's matches. I used to love a lot of those. One of the ones particularly was Brock and Kurt Angle. I loved that. Batista's back in the day, a lot of matches with him. It's really hard to narrow it down to a specific, but just a general, you know, as a fan, especially getting into the industry, it was a lot of the bigger guys, you know, that I really sort of honed into that, and that's what I wanted to be. So yeah, but definitely Brock, man, because I think there are a lot of his matches, he possessed so much agility, power, and strength, and everything else like that. But yeah, just a lot of those matches, but specifically the ones against Kurt Angle, because they were just crazy matches to watch.
I think if you're a newer fan getting into wrestling and only know UFC Brock,
pleasant, go look him up.
Surprised, because the WrestleMania 19 match, people know for the Shooting Star Press, but match is incredible. Their whole feud was really, really good. So, I mean, he's an incredible athlete. That's putting it lightly, but Rob Terry, we can next see you in Generation Iron, Natty for Life. It's available on video on demand on July 31st. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Take it easy.